Now, this next piece that we're going to sing is one of those great American songs that really tells the story of America, just like the Star Spangled Banner does. When our founding fathers created the Declaration of Independence, they created something that had never been done before. They didn't base a country on a common language, a common ancestry, even a common land. What they based the country on was some ideas. The idea that every person ought to be free and every person ought to be treated with dignity and respect. That wasn't something that was a real thing in the world at that time, right? We had classes of people, we had ruling classes, we had laboring classes and so forth. But we said, no, in America, everybody will be equal. Everybody will have an equal opportunity to work hard, to learn what they can, to make something of their life. And while America certainly hasn't always lived up to these ideals, and one of the biggest things that we can see about that is that we had to fight a civil war to make sure that an entire class of people, an entire race of people at this school could also be given freedom, can also be treated with dignity. And once again, America has not always lived up to its ideals, and even today we don't always. But the fact that we have those ideals and that we've been willing to fight wars and many people die for that cause says a lot about who we are. Now, this next piece started its life as a revivalist song, but early on in the 1860s, there was a man named John Brown who had this idea. The fact that there are still people being slaves, he said, this should not be happening. Like, we can talk about it forever, we can pass laws for it or against it, but really, anytime that somebody is suffering under slavery, that is a wrong that just needs to be stopped. And so he courageously, some people say foolhardily, went in and seized guns and tried to make it stop right then and there. And as we know, John Brown did fail in that, but there was a song written about him. John Brown's body lays a moldering in its grave, but his soul is marching on. It's a song that was picked up by the Union soldiers. He was a person that really inspired the North to pick up that cause of freeing people, of making sure that we could all have equality. The writer of the next song of the words, I'm trying to remember her name off the top of my head. Julia Ward Howe. She was watching a column of Union soldiers pass by and heard them singing John Brown's body. Lies a moldering in the grave. And she happened to know the family of John Brown, and she thought about how important that was such a rallying cry. And somebody said to her, well, it's a good song, but you should write some additional lyrics to it. And she thought about that and said, maybe I should. And she went to bed that night, and she says that the words just came to her. And she got up, found a piece of paper, and scribbled down all 4 or 5, I can try to remember how many verses there are, to the Battle Hymn of the Republic. And it really, became another battle cry, another rallying cry for the Union soldiers to not only keep our country together, but to ensure that we can live up to those ideals of freedom and equality. So, as we're performing this piece tonight, you'll get a little bit of that flavor of how this piece inspired those soldiers going into it, and also how they felt that God was on their side in bringing freedom to all people, and also how this ideal of freedom and equality, this proposition, as Abraham Lincoln said, that all men are created equal, is not something that we've entirely realized, and something that we all need to recommit as Americans to make that a reality. So, our final piece, the Battle Hymn of the Republic.